I had always believed that trust was the foundation of any successful marriage. For 4 years, my wife Amanda and I built what I thought was an unshakable bond. I was a software engineer, she was a marketing executive, and together we were living our American dream. Then one accusation shattered everything. False allegations of infidelity not only broke my heart but also invited violence into my life and destroyed everything I had worked for. Before I share how my in-laws destroyed my life over a false accusation, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that like button if you've ever been wrongfully accused of something you didn't. I first met Amanda at my college friend's housewarming party 6 years ago. She walked in wearing a blue summer dress, and I couldn't take my eyes off her. When our mutual friend introduced us, we instantly clicked. We spent the entire evening talking about everything from our favorite books to our career aspirations. I learned that she was passionate about marketing and had just landed a job at a prestigious firm. I shared my love for coding and my dreams of creating software that would make people's lives easier. After exchanging numbers, I called her the very next day. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant downtown. I remember how her eyes sparkled in the candlelight as she told me about her family. They were extremely close-knit, something I admired since my own parents lived across the country. Her father Frank was a retired military man who now ran his own security business. Her older brother Daniel worked with their father and was fiercely protective of Amanda. She also mentioned her cousin Tyler, who was like a second brother to her. 2 years of dating later, I proposed during a hiking trip to her favorite mountain lookout. When she said yes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. Our wedding was beautiful, intimate, with about 100 guests. Both families seemed to get along well, though I noticed her father Frank sizing me up during our first meeting. "You better be good to my little girl," he had said, his grip unusually tight during our handshake. I assured him that making Amanda happy was my life's mission. We bought our first home together in a nice suburb, a modest 3-bedroom house with a small backyard, where we planned to build a swing set for the children we hoped to have. Our careers were flourishing. I had been promoted to senior software engineer, and Amanda was climbing the corporate ladder at her marketing firm. We had date nights every Friday weekend, brunches with friends, and annual vacations to new destinations. Life was good, perfect even. The first signs of trouble began subtly. Amanda started asking more questions about my female coworkers. At first, I thought nothing of it, openly sharing details about meetings and projects. Then I noticed her checking my phone when I was in the shower. Once I caught her scrolling through my text messages while I was brushing my teeth. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Nothing," she replied quickly, putting my phone down. "Just checking the time." My phone had been face down on the nightstand, displaying the time clearly on its back panel digital clock. The tension escalated when a new colleague named Jessica joined our team at work. Jessica was brilliant with user interface design, exactly what our project needed. During dinner one evening, I mentioned Jessica's innovative approach to our current project. "You seem to talk about Jessica a lot," Amanda remarked, her fork pushing food around her plate rather than eating it. "She's a key team member on this project," I explained. "Her expertise is really helping us move forward." Amanda nodded but remained quiet for the rest of the meal. Our project deadline was approaching rapidly, requiring late nights at the office with the entire team. I always texted Amanda when we would be working late, but her responses became increasingly curt. When I would arrive home sometimes after 10 at night, she would be pretending to sleep or would be watching television with barely a glance in my direction. "Is everything okay?" I would ask. "I'm fine," she would reply, that universal code word that meant exactly the opposite. I tried to include her more in my work life, inviting her to team dinners and company events. She would come along but would spend most of the time observing my interactions with female colleagues, particularly Jessica. I could feel her eyes on me during every conversation. After one such dinner on the drive home, Amanda was unusually quiet. "You looked very comfortable with Jessica tonight," she finally said. "We work together every day," I replied. "Of course we're comfortable around each other. She touched your arm when she laughed at your joke." I sighed. "Amanda, you know there's nothing going on, right? Jessica is a colleague, nothing more." She turned to look out the window. "If you say so." I should have recognized these as warning signs, but I was too absorbed in my project and too confident in our relationship to see the storm brewing. I thought her jealousy would pass once the project was completed, and my hours returned to normal. I was catastrophically wrong. The accusation came on a Friday. I remember it clearly because we had plans to try a new restaurant that had opened downtown. I came home early, looking forward to our date night, only to find Amanda sitting rigidly on the couch, her face a mask of anger and hurt. On the coffee table in front of her lay my phone, which I had accidentally left at home that morning, a printed receipt, and what looked like a strand of blonde hair. "How long have you been sleeping with her?" Amanda asked, her voice eerily calm. What, sleeping with who? I was genuinely confused. "Do not play dumb with me, Charlton," her voice rose sharply. "Jessica, I saw the texts about meeting up. And this receipt for lunch at La Maison that you never told me about. And this," she held up the blonde hair between her fingers. "I found this on your jacket. My hair is brown, Charlton." The pieces fell into place in my mind, but all wrong from her perspective. The texts were about a work meeting. The lunch receipt was from a client meeting where Jessica had indeed been present along with 3 other team members. And the hair could have come from anywhere, a crowded elevator, the subway, anywhere. "Amanda, this is crazy. There's nothing going on between me and Jessica or anyone else. Those texts are about work. That lunch was a team lunch with clients. And that hair could be from anywhere. Stop lying." She screamed, tears now streaming down her face. "I trusted you. I gave you everything." I tried to approach her, to hold her, to reason with her, but she backed away as if my touch would burn her. "Do not touch me. I am leaving. I cannot even look at you right now. Amanda, please, let's talk about this. This is all a misunderstanding." But she was already grabbing her purse and car keys. She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I spent the next several hours calling and texting her with no response. I called her friends, but none would tell me where she was. Finally, one mentioned she had gone to her parents' house. I considered driving there, but thought it might be better to give her space to calm down. That was my second catastrophic mistake. The doorbell rang around 10:30 that night. Thinking it was Amanda returning to talk, I rushed to open it. Instead, I found myself facing her brother Daniel, cousin Tyler, and father Frank. Before I could speak, Daniel's fist connected with my face, sending me stumbling backward. "You cheating piece of garbage," Daniel roared as he followed me into the house. I raised my hands defensively. "Wait, this is all a misunderstanding." But my words fell on deaf ears. The 3 men rushed at me. Frank grabbed my arms from behind while Daniel and Tyler took turns punching me. I felt a sickening crunch as Tyler's fist broke my nose. Blood poured down my face. I struggled to break free, but Frank was surprisingly strong for his age. "You think you can hurt my daughter and get away with it?" Frank growled in my ear. Daniel landed a particularly vicious punch to my ribs. I heard another crack and felt a searing pain that suggested at least one rib had broken. I couldn't breathe properly. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. They threw me to the floor and began kicking me. I curled into a ball, trying to protect my vital organs. Through the haze of pain, I heard banging on the front door and shouting. My neighbors had heard the commotion and called the police. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. The attack stopped abruptly as police officers rushed in, weapons drawn. "Hands up. Everyone on the ground now." Amanda's family members were handcuffed and taken outside. Paramedics came in to tend to me. My face was swollen beyond recognition. I had a broken nose, 2 cracked ribs, a split lip, and bruises covering most of my body. They loaded me onto a stretcher and into an ambulance. At the hospital, the doctor said I was lucky not to have more severe injuries. They set my nose, wrapped my ribs, and gave me painkillers. As I lay there drifting in and out of consciousness from the medication, I saw Amanda enter my hospital room. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, but her expression remained hard. "How could you do this to us?" she asked, her voice breaking. To me, through swollen lips, I tried once more. "Amanda, I never cheated on you. Never." She shook her head. I saw the evidence. "I am filing for divorce." Those words hurt more than any physical blow I had endured that night. Before leaving, she added, "I have already posted about your infidelity online. Everyone knows what you did now." I closed my eyes, too exhausted and in too much pain to argue further. When I opened them again, she was gone, and with her any hope that this nightmare would end quickly. Returning to our home the next day was like entering a mausoleum of my former life. Amanda had taken many of our shared belongings, leaving conspicuous empty spaces throughout the house. The couch where she had confronted me still held the indentation from where she had Saturday Dried blood. My blood stained the hardwood floor near the entryway. I shuffled painfully to my laptop, my broken ribs protesting with each breath. When I opened social media, my heart sank further. Amanda's post about my alleged infidelity had spread like wildfire through our social circle. Friends were taking sides, mostly hers. Comments ranged from expressions of sympathy for Amanda to outright condemnation of me. One particularly painful comment came from a friend I had known since college. Always thought Charlton was one of the good ones. Guess you never really know someone. I closed the laptop, unable to bear more. My phone began ringing calls from curious friends, wanting details, which I ignored. Then a text from my boss, "Need to see you in my office first thing Monday morning." The weekend passed in a blur of pain medication and fitful sleep. By Monday, though still in considerable pain, I dragged myself to work, hoping for some normalcy. Instead, I found whispers following me through the hallways. Jessica avoided eye contact, hurrying past me to her desk. My boss, Thomas, a man I had always respected and who had always respected me, sat stone-faced across his desk. "Charlton, we need to discuss some concerning allegations about your conduct with Jessica." "They're not true," I said immediately. "Amanda misinterpreted some completely innocent work interactions." Thomas sighed. "Jessica says you've been making her uncomfortable with excessive attention." I was stunned. "What?" "That's absolutely not true. We have a purely professional relationship. She says you suggested meeting outside of work hours multiple times, for project discussions." With the whole team, I was nearly shouting now. Thomas held up his hands. "Look, I have to take these allegations seriously. Until this is resolved, I'm transferring you to the database management team. Less client interaction, fewer team projects." It was a demotion in all but name. My innovative project, the one I had poured months into, would now be completed without me. My salary would remain the same, but my responsibilities and opportunities for advancement would be significantly reduced. Outside the office, Amanda's family continued their campaign against me. I found my car tires slashed in the company parking lot. Threatening phone calls came at all hours. Voices disguised, but messages clear. "Watch your back, cheater." Daniel even showed up at my workplace one afternoon, causing a scene in the lobby until security escorted him out. I filed for a restraining order against Amanda's family, which the judge granted immediately given the assault and ongoing harassment. But the damage to my reputation continued. Amanda's father, with his military and business connections, spread rumors throughout our professional network. Invitations to industry events stopped coming. Former colleagues avoided me. The isolation was perhaps the most difficult part. Friends I had known for years stopped returning my calls. Dinner invitations dried up. Even my running group, with whom I had spent every Saturday morning for 3 years, texted that it might be uncomfortable if I continued to attend. Only my parents, who lived 3 states away, remained steadfastly supportive. They offered to have me move back home temporarily, but I refused. Retreating felt too much like admitting guilt. Instead, I focused on documenting every instance of harassment and defamation for my lawyer. The divorce proceedings began adding financial strain to my already considerable burdens. Despite our prenuptial agreement, Amanda was demanding the house, half my retirement savings, and ongoing spousal support. Her lawyer argued that the prenup should be invalidated due to my marital misconduct. My legal fees mounted as my lawyer fought these baseless claims. My physical injuries gradually healed, but new wounds formed. I developed anxiety that made public spaces difficult to navigate. Sleep became elusive, interrupted by nightmares of the attack, or by phantom phone rings. I jumped at unexpected noises. Trust, once my default position with people, had been replaced by suspicion. I began seeing a therapist, an additional expense I could barely afford given my legal bills, but a necessary one for my deteriorating mental health. 3 months into this living nightmare, I had lost 20 pounds. My position at work, most of my friends, and any sense of security I had once felt in the world. I was a shell of my former self, going through the motions of living without any real joy or purpose. Until a chance encounter changed everything. I was sitting in a corner booth at a coffee shop I had never frequented before, one far from my usual haunts where I might encounter people who knew me or Amanda. I was reviewing some documents my lawyer had sent when someone approached my table. "Charlton," a male voice said hesitantly. I looked up to see a tall man with dark hair whom I vaguely recognized but couldn't immediately place. I'm Luke, Jessica's boyfriend. My body tensed, preparing for another confrontation, another accusation. Instead, Luke asked, "Can I sit down? I think there's something you should know." Cautiously, I nodded. "First, I want to apologize for what happened to you. Jessica told me everything, and we both feel terrible about it. Terrible about what exactly, I asked, warily. About her lying to my boss that I was harassing her." Luke looked confused. "What? No. About the misunderstanding with your wife. Jessica never said you harassed her. That must have been Amanda's doing too." I sat back processing this. "What misunderstanding?" Luke pulled out his phone. "Jessica was helping you plan a surprise, right, for your anniversary." The pieces suddenly clicked into place. "Yes, a trip to Italy. It was supposed to be a surprise for our 5th anniversary, still 7 months away." "How did you know?" "Jessica told me all about it. She was excited to help since she used to work as a travel consultant before switching to tech. That's why you two were texting and meeting outside of work." He showed me his phone, scrolling through text conversations between him and Jessica dating back months. There were mentions of helping me plan the surprise trip recommendations for romantic restaurants in Rome. Even jokes about how hard it was for me to keep the secret. "That lunch receipt Amanda found," I said slowly, "was from a meeting with a travel agent Jessica recommended." Luke nodded. "Exactly. Jessica feels horrible that she somehow became the center of this disaster. Why hasn't she said anything to Amanda? To our boss? She tried to contact Amanda once she heard about the accusations, but Amanda blocked her. And honestly, she's afraid of your wife's family after hearing what they did to you. As for your boss, Jessica had no idea he thought you were harassing her. She's been assigned to a different project, and assumed you were too." He showed me more screenshots, including email exchanges about the surprise trip planning and group messages that clearly included other team members for work-related meetings. A weight I had been carrying for months began to lift. "I need copies of all of this," I said. Luke agreed immediately, sending everything to my email address on the spot. Armed with this new evidence, I began methodically clearing my name. My first stop was my workplace. I requested a meeting with both Thomas and the HR director, presenting them with the complete email and text chains that proved my relationship with Jessica was entirely professional. I also showed them evidence of Amanda's family's harassment campaign, including the police report from the assault and the restraining order. Thomas looked genuinely remorseful. "Charlton, I had no idea the extent of this situation. I apologize for not getting all the facts before taking action." Within a week, I was reinstated to my original position, with a formal apology added to my personnel file. Jessica requested a meeting as well, tearfully apologizing for not coming forward sooner. "I was scared," she admitted. "When I heard what they did to you, I worried they might come after me too." I couldn't blame her. Fear had been my constant companion these past months as well. Next, I focused on the legal front. My lawyer was ecstatic about the new evidence. "This changes everything," she said. "We can counter Amanda's claims in the divorce proceedings, and we have grounds for defamation suits against both Amanda and her family members." I filed an updated police report about the assault now, with clear evidence that it was based on false allegations. The district attorney decided to pursue felony assault charges against Daniel, Tyler, and Frank. The final step was the hardest, confronting Amanda. On my lawyer's advice, I didn't meet with her directly. Instead, I sent all the evidence to her through my attorney, along with a formal letter denying any reconciliation possibilities. Her response came 3 days later, a tear-stained handwritten letter delivered to my lawyer's office. "I made a terrible mistake," she wrote. "My father cheated on my mother when I was 16, tearing our family apart. I promised myself I would never be blindsided like my mother was, that I would always be vigilant. But my vigilance turned to paranoia, and I ended up destroying something beautiful based on my own insecurities and past trauma. I love you, Charlton. I know I have no right to ask for another chance, but I am asking anyway. Please, can we talk?" I read the letter multiple times, feeling nothing but a hollow ache where love had once resided. The restraining order against her family remained in force, with court dates approaching for their assault charges. Frank had lost his job due to the pending criminal case. Daniel had been suspended from his position. Their reputations, like mine had been, were in tatters. Amanda continued her campaign for reconciliation. Daily apology texts came to my new phone number, which she had somehow obtained. Gifts appeared at my new apartment, which I had moved to for safety and distance. Her family even attempted to apologize through intermediaries, offering financial settlements to drop the charges. But some bells cannot be unrung. Some trust once broken cannot be repaired. I maintained firm boundaries, focusing instead on my own healing. I found a new therapist specializing in trauma and post-traumatic stress. I reconnected with the few friends who had reached out once the truth emerged. I immersed myself in work, rebuilding my professional reputation project by successful project. 6 months after the truth came to light, my physical wounds had long healed, but the emotional ones still felt fresh. The courts had ordered Amanda's family to pay for my medical bills and additional damages, which provided some financial relief. The divorce was finalized with the judge ruling overwhelmingly in my favor, given the circumstances. Amanda persisted in her reconciliation attempts. She sent a heartfelt letter explaining that she had started therapy to address her trust issues stemming from her father's infidelity. Her family issued a formal public apology admitting their wrongdoing in a statement published in the local newspaper. My parents, who had supported me unwaveringly throughout the ordeal, gently suggested that forgiveness might be the final step in my healing journey. Not for her, my mother clarified during a phone call. For yourself. Carrying anger is exhausting, sweetheart. I knew she was right, but forgiveness felt like a distant shore I could not yet reach. Still, I began the challenging process of sorting through my feelings, distinguishing between the anger that protected me and the anger that merely weighed me down. Gradually, I reconnected with friends who had initially abandoned me, but had since reached out with apologies. Some relationships were beyond repair, but others slowly mended with honest conversations and renewed commitment. I began to build new friendships as well, approaching them with caution, but also with the hope that trust was still possible. On the 1-year anniversary of the accusation that had derailed my life, I agreed to meet Amanda at a neutral location, a public park, with plenty of people around. My therapist had suggested that closure might help me move forward, and after much consideration, I decided she was right. Amanda looked different than I remembered. Thinner, with dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite conceal. When she saw me, her expression cycled rapidly through hope, shame, and resignation. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as we sat at opposite ends of a park bench. "I'm not here to reconcile," I stated clearly. "I'm here for closure." She nodded. "I understand. I just wanted to tell you face to face how deeply sorry I am. My jealousy and insecurity destroyed something precious, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. Your actions, and your family's actions, nearly destroyed me," I replied. "Not just our marriage. Me, as a person." Tears filled her eyes. "I know. There's no excuse. I started therapy to work through my trust issues from my father's infidelity. I should have done that years ago before it poisoned what we had." We talked for an hour. She explained how her family had always been overprotective, how her father's infidelity had created a household atmosphere where men were viewed with suspicion. She had been working to break free from these toxic patterns, she said. "I understand now why you can't forgive me," she concluded. "Some damage cannot be undone. It's not about forgiveness," I told her. "I do forgive you, Amanda. Holding on to anger was only hurting me more. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Trust once shattered so completely is nearly impossible to rebuild." "I understand," she whispered. As we prepared to part ways, perhaps for the last time, I shared the news I had been saving. "I've accepted a job offer in Seattle. I'm leaving next month." Her eyes widened with surprise, then understanding. "A fresh start. You deserve that." We did not hug or shake hands when we said goodbye. Some endings require distance, not contact. But as I walked away, I felt lighter than I had in months. The lessons I learned through this ordeal were profound and would stay with me forever. I learned about the fragility of reputation, how a life built over decades can be dismantled in days. I learned about the danger of judgment without evidence, how easily people assume the worst without seeking truth. I discovered how quickly loved ones can become strangers, and strangers can become unexpected allies. Most importantly, I discovered an inner strength I never knew. I possessed a resilience that carried me through my darkest days. 2 years after the accusation that changed everything, I was thriving in Seattle. My new job challenged and fulfilled me. I had made new friends who knew me only as I was, not as the subject of scandal and gossip. The healing journey continued with occasional setbacks, but steady progress. I had even started dating again cautiously. I met someone who respected boundaries and valued honest communication. We took things slowly, building trust, brick by brick, rather than assuming its existence. During a business trip back to my former city, I unexpectedly ran into Amanda at a coffee shop. We exchanged polite greetings, both of us visibly at peace with the separate paths our lives had taken. She mentioned she had moved to a different state too, seeking her own fresh start. As I reflect on everything now, I realize that the most valuable wisdom I gained was, this forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, not others. Your personal identity should never depend entirely on your relationships. True strength comes from surviving what you once thought would break you. And every experience, even the painful ones, shapes who you become. What do you think is harder, forgiving someone who has wronged you or rebuilding trust after it's been broken? Have you ever had to choose between forgiveness and reconciliation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if this story resonated with you, and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and healing. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes the end of one chapter is just the beginning of a better one.